Hello, students. Frank Mabson here. It's good to be with you on behalf of Real Men Read. Um, uh, I work for the City of Lexington Fayette Urban County Government, in the Division of Water Quality. I administer stormwater quality incentive grants, which incorporates trying to improve our stormwater infrastructure here in Lexington, Kentucky, to mitigate issues of pollution in our watersheds and what have you. So we process the applications, we score them, and we award the monies, which comes from your water quality management fee to help improve stormwater here in Lexington. My favorite subject in school was history. I just love the past, love to know where we've been, love to evaluate our similarities and small differences that we have, by the way. And that's what I do. As a little bonus here, I have my little Back to the Future. It's because this movie is about a time travel, so it's kind of like, kind of goes hand in hand with my favorite subject. Meanwhile, the book I want to share with you today is called Grace for President. If you get your books out and join me, I'm going to show you a quick picture in the book that incorporates pictures of former presidents. And as you can see, Grace throws her picture in because Grace in this book would like to become president of the United States, the first female president. So reading along, just join with me real quick. And let's say one Monday morning in September, Mrs. Barrington wrote out a big poster with all of the president's pictures on it. Grace Campbell could not believe her eyes. Where are all the girls? Where are all the girls? She asked. That is a very good question, said Mrs. Barrington. The truth is, our country has never had a woman president. No girl president? Ever? Grace asked. No, I'm afraid not, said Mrs. Barrington. Grace sat at her desk and stewed. No girls? Who'd ever heard of such a crazy thing? Finally, she raised her hand. Yes, Grace, I've been thinking it over, and I'd like to be president. Several students in the class laughed. Well, I think that's a star-spangled idea, Grace, said Mrs. Barrington. In fact, we can have our own election right here at Woodrow Wilson Elementary. The snickering in the room stopped. Grace smiled. Would anyone else like to run for president? Mrs. Barrington asked the class. Nobody raised their hand. Becoming president was going to be easy, Grace thought. The next day, Mrs. Barrington made an announcement. In the name of democracy, I've invited Mr. Waller's class to join our election. Their class has nominated Thomas Cobb to be their presidential candidate. Grace's heart sank. Thomas was the school spelling bee champion. His experiments always took a blue ribbon at the science fair, and he was captain of the soccer team. Becoming president wasn't going to be so easy after all, Grace thought. The teachers put the names of all 50 states in the District of Columbia into a hat. Everyone except for Grace and Thomas got to choose a state. I'm Texas, said Anthony. I'm New Hampshire, said Rose. I'm Michigan, said Robbie. What does the number 17 mean? Each state is assigned a number of electoral votes. That number is determined by how many people live in the state, said Mrs. Barrington. Each of you will be representative for your state. Altogether, our country has 538 electoral votes, Mr. Waller explained. And on election day, the candidate who receives 270 electoral votes or more wins the election. Why 270? Asked Rose. That's more than half of all the electoral votes, Mr. Waller said. Becoming president really wasn't going to be so easy, Grace thought. Grace came up with a campaign slogan. Make history. Vote Grace Campbell for president. Thomas came up with his own campaign slogan. Vote for Thomas Cobb, the best man for the job. Grace listened to what issues were important to the students, and she made a list of campaign promises. A peaceful school, no bullies. A cleaner school, no littering. Better hot lunches, no more fish stick tacos. Yuck. Thomas made up his own list of promises. Free tutoring, free soccer lessons, fish stick tacos every week. Grace made campaign posters and buttons. Thomas made posters and buttons too. Each week, the teachers set aside time for the candidates to meet with their constituents. Polls were taken, voters were making their choices. Grace continued to campaign. At recess, she gave speeches. During lunch, she handed out free cupcakes. After school, she held rallies. Meanwhile, Thomas wasn't worried. He had cleverly calculated that the boys held slightly more electoral votes than the girls. At recess, Thomas studied his spelling words. During lunch, he worked on his latest science experiment. After school, he played soccer. Even before the election, Grace made good on her promises. She joined the safety squad, she organized the school beautification committee, and she volunteered her time in the school cafeteria. In early November, Woodrow Wilson Elementary hosted a special election day assembly. Grace and Thomas took their places on stage as the school band began to play. Henry was the first representative to approach the microphone. The Yellowhammer state of Alabama cast its 9 electoral votes for Thomas Cobb. Fletcher said the last frontier state of Alaska cast its 3 electoral votes for the best man for the job, Thomas Cobb. Hannah called out the Grand Canyon state of Arizona cast its 10 electoral votes for Grace Campbell. And so it went. State after state after state cast their electoral votes. The scoreboard in the gymnasium kept track of the totals. The voting demonstration was quickly coming to an end. Claire approached the podium. The Badger state of Wisconsin cast its 10 votes for my best friend, Grace Campbell. Grace looked at the scoreboard. Thomas had 268 electoral votes. She had 267. There was only one state still unaccounted for: Wyoming. Thomas grinned. Grace felt sick. Sam walked up to the microphone. He looked at Thomas. He looked at Grace. He looked down at Grace's handmade flag. Sam didn't say a word. "What are you waiting for?" Thomas whispered. The band stopped playing. All eyes were on Wyoming. Finally, Sam cleared his throat. The equality state of Wyoming cast its 3 electoral votes for Grace Campbell. The gymnasium erupted in loud cheers, a few boos. Mrs. Barrington approached the podium. With 270 electoral votes, the winner is Grace Campbell. Thomas looked stunned. Grace hugged Sam. "Why did you do it?" she asked. Sam handed Grace his flag. "Because," he said, "I thought you were the best person for the job." The following week, the students in Miss Barrington's class were preparing for their career day presentations. Grace volunteered to go first. She stood at the front of the room and glanced at the poster still hanging on the wall. "My name is Grace Campbell, and when I grow up, I'm going to be President of the United States." This time, everyone believed that she would. And so, students, as you can see, dreams do come true. All you have to do is be willing to work hard and stay the course. And of course, last but not least, don't give up. That's what staying the course means. Just do not give up. Focus on your dreams and aspirations, and I believe you will succeed. Meanwhile, thank you for joining me in this fun read time for Real Men Read, and we hope to get more and more people involved. Don't be afraid to read with your parents. It's a benefit. You can spend time with your family. You can show off your reading skills and perhaps learn even more on how to read and how to focus and the context of your readings. Meanwhile, I've enjoyed this time. I thank you all, and I look forward to doing it again. I will be with you with my second book coming soon. Meanwhile, thank you, and God bless. Oh, before I leave, I want to give you a snapshot. I also do recordings. I like to sing and things on the side as a hobby, so it doesn't have to be all work. It can be some play and fun and creativity. I like to spark through creativity, and I encourage you to do the same. This is Frank Mabson for Real Men Read, signing off. Thanks.